Hey everyone, welcome to another bonus episode of Crime Family. Today I'm going to be discussing the disturbing case of Mitchelle Blair. To the outside world, Mitchelle Blair seemed like a relatively normal single mom who lived with her 4 children in Detroit, Michigan in March of 2015. Her Facebook name was Mitchelle Blair, and then in brackets she had "loyal to my babies." And she would post pictures and sayings about how blessed she was to be a mom. So it seemed like she really cared and was thankful for her kids. Her oldest daughter was 17 at the time that the story takes place, and her youngest boy was a boy who was being called Alex to protect his identity, so we're going to call him Alex as well. So Mitchelle was separated from her children's fathers, so she did not live with either one of them in her home. She was estranged from both her parents and admits that she was pulling away from her aunt, who didn't have any children of her own. So it seemed clear that Mitchelle had issues with keeping relationships with people in her family. She also had a tattoo across her chest that says, quote, "Trust no one," which would lead some to speculate that she had trouble in the past and felt betrayed by people who she should have been able to trust. Mitchelle's whole ordeal started to become apparent, and everything started to unravel for her after she failed to pay her rent for the apartment her and her kids were living in, and they were going to be evicted. And this eviction notice was not playing around. When time came up and she was due to come out, they physically came to evict her. No one was at the apartment, and so they just started clearing out all of her stuff. So in the living room was a large freezer, and when they opened it, they saw something that no one expected. Inside the freezer was a teenage girl. She was naked and covered in frost with a black garbage bag wrapped around her. There was blood around her face. There was a black scarf or some type of material wrapped around her neck. She had visible injuries on her head and face, her arms, and her chest. And under her, there was a pile of blankets, and then there was the body of a preteen boy. So Mitchelle was found next door at a neighbor's house with 2 out of 4 of her kids. Mitchelle was, of course, quickly arrested, and she was very cooperative and soft-spoken with the detective who was questioning her. When she was asked where her 2 other kids, Stephen and Stoni, were, she says that they're at the apartment in the freezer, and that she's the one who put them in there. When asked why she did that, she says it's because the 2 dead kids were inappropriately touching and assaulting Alex. She claims that it went on for years, since Alex had been in diapers. However, none of that had ever been substantiated, and according to a YouTube video about this case by the channel Explore With Us, it is very rare for young kids to do this kind of thing to siblings, and it would usually be associated with severe trauma or them repeating actions that had been done to them. Also, the kids and Mitchelle were all living together in a small apartment, and for some reason, the kids weren't going to school at this time, so it suggested that it would be very difficult for this type of thing to be going on for years without Mitchelle knowing. And Explore With Us also suggests that Mitchelle is either lying and making up the situation to help cope with what she did, or she's convinced herself that this has actually happened even though it hasn't, and she actually doesn't think she's lying. Or she's in denial about her true awareness of the situation. Maybe she was aware of it and didn't do anything, and then finally she just snapped. Either way, it's unlikely that things happened the way that she's claiming they happened. Mitchelle goes into more detail, and she says that Alex acted out what happened with a couple of dolls that they had, and when Mitchelle asked him who did it to him, he admits that it was his brother Stephen who was doing that to him. And Mitchelle confronts Stephen. He denies everything, but Alex says that Stephen is lying. Alex starts telling Mitchelle everything that happened, and she starts to remember times when Alex would be crying in the bedroom and Stephen would just say that he fell out of the bed, even though it was because that Stephen was actually sexually assaulting Alex. She also remembers for years she thought that Alex was actually a bedwetter, but she finds out that allegedly Stephen was coming down off the top bunk, peeing all over Alex, and then getting back into bed and blaming it on Alex, of course. So after Mitchelle hears all of this, she's obviously very upset, She doesn't know what to do. She kind of goes out to the hallway, sits on the floor, goes downstairs, and starts thinking everything over. She finally does get back up to Stephen's room. She goes in there and she starts to continually punch him until he finally says that he's ready to tell the truth. And so, in the interrogation, when the officer asks how 9-year-old Stephen was killed, this is Mitchelle's response. So I'm going to play some audio from her interrogation. Just a warning, it is very disturbing about child abuse. Okay, so here we go.
What caused him to die? I didn't ask you what you were doing. I asked you, how did your son...
I don't know. What I'm saying is he died from what I inflicted on him, but it wasn't... He didn't die right then. You get what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. I couldn't tell you specifically what happened inside.
Well, you say you afflicted on him. What did you afflict?
I was punching him.
So you say you don't know what caused him to die?
No, I know I did. What I'm saying is, I don't know specifically what was going on in his body. You get what I'm saying?
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but you still haven't... I asked you the question, how did your son die? Okay, so you did something. I need you to tell me specifically what it was. So you just punched him?
Like, just punching him to keep him out, yes.
I mean, what did you do? You punched him?
Basically everywhere. I choked him.
With your hands?
Yes. That's not how he died.
What else did you do?
I'm saying,
you punched him everywhere, you choked him. What else? I mean, you want to come clean, right? You want to get this off your chest. It's just me and you talking. Okay, nobody's here to judge you.
It's not about the judging. I know, it's just...
It's painful. Is it painful to you?
No, it's evil.
It's evil what you did? Is it evil?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're judging yourself. But I need you to take it off your chest, and I need you to tell me what you did. You told me some stuff, but...
Punched him. Like a bathtub, right? Hot water. And I did like this. I stood him in there.
In the hot water?
Yeah.
No, did you
got right back out?
Did you run the hot water first and then dump him?
What do you mean?
How?
I grabbed him in the bathroom and I was still talking to him. And then I'm asking him, like, why are you doing? He said, I hate him. And it's okay. We're just talking about it, and I got the hot water on. And I'm still talking to him, but it's like I'm threatening him. And I didn't plan on doing it, but I did it. It's like, I can't explain it to you.
So you turned the hot water in the bathroom, in the bathtub?
Yes. And if you don't tell me everything, and tell me exactly why, just everything, like what you've been doing.
Did you put him in the bathtub?
I stood him up in there.
You stood him up in there?
Yeah. So his feet got really messed up. It was basically a rotation of that, punching him, just hurting him. He's skinny.
How long did that go for?
In total, after I found out, he was in there 4 or 5 days. And I made him stay in his room. I took him food because I didn't know what to do. So I called my aunt first to see, but I ended up, I guess, checking out, and I didn't tell her. She knew nothing of what was going on. He started telling me everything, He said he said he took his dad away from him. It's just a lot of things. Like, we talked for a very long time, and he just told me a lot of stuff, and I just had to go downstairs.
So how long after that incident does Stephen die? How long? Okay, so you beat him up the one day, right? And then 5 days go by, you beat him up again?
No, because it's mixing. The hot water was the night before, the afternoon before. I was around 1 something in the afternoon.
So are you telling me, because when I asked you what exactly did you do to
Basically, that day when I found out, I messed him up. He was still walking around functioning. He was just in that room. And then the more and more started telling me throughout the days and everything he remembers since he was eating Cheerios.
Okay, so the audio is kind of choppy because every time they say Alex's name or his actual name, they bleep it out. And sometimes, I think even when they say Stephen's name, they bleep it out. So sometimes it's kind of choppy. Also, that audio has been clipped together. I cut out some things because they kind of get off topic. So it's not perfect. But basically, she says that over a period of about 5 days, she punches Stephen, she chokes him, she puts him into hot water. Later, she even confesses to dumping hot water on his genitals throughout this time. She's choking him. And she says she lets up on the second day because she had been drinking a lot and she was sick that day. So she leaves him alone for a day, but then continues on the next day. They go on to talk about how he actually died. And Mitchelle says that he was throwing up that day and she would feed him even though he didn't want to eat because his stomach was hurting so bad. When he was lying down in his bed, he started to struggle to breathe. He had to go to the bathroom, so she brought him in there, but he couldn't throw up. He said he had to poop, but he couldn't poop either. So she brought him back to his room, lays him down on the bed, and that's when his breathing starts to get, he starts to struggle to breathe. So when she thought that he had stopped breathing, she says that she wanted to do CPR, but when she went to put her face close to his to blow in his mouth, she said she could see and smell the beef stew that he had eaten earlier coming out of his nose and mouth, and he died shortly after that. After she knows that he's dead, she wrapped him in his favorite blanket and put him in the freezer. And another disturbing thing is that the kids knew about this. They had seen her punching him, and Stoni for sure at least knew that she had killed him and put him in the freezer. And it's kind of crazy because it takes years for this to come out. So their dead brother was in the freezer in their living room with them before Stoni is killed. So that's disturbing. So then Mitchelle continues to talk about how she killed 13-year-old Stoni, and she admits that she actually didn't mean to kill Stephen, but he just died because of what she did to him. But she admits that she actually absolutely meant to kill Stoni. So she killed Stoni because she found out that apparently Stoni had been sexually abusing Stephen and Alex as well. And so here are some clips of the detective questioning her about Stoni's death.
How did Stoni die?
My kids. Stoni, I meant to do it.
Excuse me?
With Stoni, I meant to do it. Like with Stephen, I can't even say it was an accident, but it's not. If somebody dies from what you do to them, then it's that. But Stoni, I did mean to.
What did you do to your daughter, Stoni?
I punched her so hard because she was still doing that after they told me about Stephen. I walked straight up to her and I did like this, put up against the wall. I said, "What the did you do?" I looked at her and I said, "Tell me now."
So you grab her, she's still breathing because you're asking her questions.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Do you squeeze tighter where she can't breathe? What do you do?
After he told me that, it was like she just slammed her.
So you grabbed harder?
Not grabbed. I just got it. I already had a good grip. So I did like this. How you sling somebody down. After he said what he said, I just threw her down. I kicked her. She got up, was backing up, and I asked her, "Oh, have you been doing this to him too?" And she's like, "Yes."
If she was doing that to Stephen?
"Yes, did you do this?" I'm looking at her, and then that's what kind of me up because Stephen was always an arm baby. People was like, "Oh, he hangs on your shoulder." Stoni, she said yes, because he was right here telling everything basically.
At what point do you kill Stoni?
Well, I hit Stoni in the head.
With what?
It's like this little stick.
What was that?
It's like a stick.
It's just a wooden stick?
Yeah, but it's thick, you know what I mean? And I punched her again. And I just told her once, I mean, I just, you know, same thing.
So he tells you some more stuff, you punch her, and then you tell her to go to her room?
Yes. No, I didn't just punch her once, though. You know what I'm saying? It went on for a while. She was up in her room for like 2 days. I wouldn't talk to her. After the first day, I found out. I did what I did by going there and give her food. Then I get pissed at myself that I gave her food because y'all was stealing food from him every day. That's why he go to sleep hungry and wake up hungry. You know. So
okay, so you give her food.
I stopped giving her so much. So I fed her like twice a day. And I didn't touch her for a while.
Let me ask you this. Did you stop giving her food, period?
What you mean?
Did you starve her?
Basically. It went down from 2 times a day to 1, and it was only oatmeal. Oatmeal and water.
So you basically starved her, right? Yeah. Is that how she dies?
No.
Okay. There's more? Tell me more.
Okay, so...
How long does this go on for?
Maybe almost 2 weeks. But the hitting wasn't.
Just a starvation?
I did mess her up that first day.
Huh?
I did mess her up bad that first day. She was still walking around, and you know, I don't know how I was functioning, but I take her little food up to her, and I even go up and I sit in the corner and I just talk to her and I look at her like, we talk for a second, like, I just keep saying how to do this, and I just talk about all of us and what we were supposed to be like. I said, you don't love him, and she was like, no. I punched her, and I told her to say it again. She's saying no, like, it hurts you. You hate him that much. You don't want to hug him. And
so what did you do when she did that?
The blue pipe.
Excuse me?
The blue pipe, the wood thing. I hit her with that.
Where did you hit her at?
I hit her in her head. Mostly in her head. She had...
Several times?
A lot, yes. Like, little lumps everywhere.
So she survived that assault?
Yes, and she was fine. Not fine, but she was mobile. When she was sleepy, so I let her go to sleep. I know I told her to go to her room.
So what ended up happening?
Smothered.
Smothered. You smothered her?
Yes.
Was it that same night? You go to the basement, you drink?
Oh, no. I get like that. No. This was a while later.
Like a day, 2 days later?
No, maybe days, because...
Like how many days?
But,
So after a few days go by, right? You just go upstairs and you smother her?
No.
Okay, tell me what.
This is, I want to say after, it's like I didn't touch her again.
For a few days?
Yeah, you get what I'm saying? So
yeah.
It's like we're going on in the second week now, and I'm just in this house now. The conversation we had about, and I smothered her.
Okay, but I want you to walk me through it. So, do you go upstairs and just say, you know what, I'm going to smother her, and you just smother her?
No.
Or do you guys have a conversation?
She was laying on the floor. She was
Where at?
laying on the bed in her room.
Okay.
So I came in and I sat down.
So you go in her room?
Yeah. And I scared her because she was asleep, but I sat down in front of her. So you wake up. She basically wake up and saw my face, and she was like this. And I just kept asking her, are you ready to apologize?
Now, when you asked her if she was ready to apologize, what did she say?
She said she doesn't want to apologize to him.
So she said no?
Yeah, but it's like, it wasn't a flat out no. It's like, I am sorry for doing it to somebody, but you're not sorry for doing that to him?
So she never said
apologize? No. She was saying no a couple days before, and that's what she kept saying, no. So I'm like, are you ready to apologize to him? She just said, I'm sorry for doing it to.
So you punched her?
Yes.
More than once?
It was basically really fast. I punched her. She actually hit me back. Because I punched her so hard. Well, she reached up and she hit me back, so I slammed her on the ground. And I'm holding like this. She looked up and she was like, I didn't mean to do that. It was like a reflex. This was the day. And it just kept going. And her shirt, it's a black shirt. I just picked it up and I put it on her neck. She really fighting back, you know what I'm saying?
When you say put it around her neck, what do you mean? You tied it or you held it, you choked her?
I put it on her neck, and first I was in front of her, but as we tussling, and we both fell, cause I'm heavier, you know, and I'm holding it, but that's still not what did it. And yes, I did tie it because before I got up, I remember I tied it. And she got up too, and of course was backing up from me, trying to get away from me.
You say
she got going. We still in the room, and she gets up. After, yeah, she gets up and was backing away, and I grabbed the bag.
Okay, you grab a bag.
I just.
And you put the bag over her head, or you just put it in her mouth?
No, I held it over her.
You what?
I did both. I didn't put it in her mouth. I held it over her nose. At first, you know how you. And then I put it over her head, and then I did like this.
Then what? Did she stop breathing at some point?
Yeah, that's what did it. That's what I did to kill her.
What do you do with the body? Stoni's body.
Freezer. On top of Stephen.
Huh?
Freezer on top of Stephen. I didn't rob her in anything.
Did you show them? Did you show them the body?
Yeah. Not for a while.
How long did it take before you showed?
Not even a week.
What was their reaction?
Just crying a lot. She's just crying a lot.
So basically what happens there, after Mitchelle finds out that apparently Stoni had been abusing both boys, Mitchelle punches and kicks her. She reduces the amount of food she's allowed to get, almost starving her. And this goes on for about 2 weeks because Stoni refuses to say that she's sorry for doing that to her brother. Mitchelle ultimately smothers her with a plastic bag. And it's kind of confusing in the audio, but there is a lot more to it that you can find online if you want to hear the whole interrogation. Stoni did say that she was sorry about doing it, but she wouldn't say that she was specifically sorry for doing it to her brother. So it's kind of a confusing conversation. And like I said before, none of these allegations of sexual abuse towards the siblings has ever been confirmed. It's speculated that Stephen and Stoni may have confessed because when they said they didn't do it, they got beaten. So if they admitted it, maybe they thought that the torture and abuse would stop, when in reality, of course, nothing would have saved them from their mother. What are you guys' thoughts about her confessions in these tapes?
She seems very nonchalant throughout the whole thing as she's describing it in detail, which is wild to me. Yeah, I think what you said, because I was going to ask, so we've never actually confirmed that the sexual abuse allegations were true, and you just confirmed that. But because I'm just thinking, because like we have nothing to base that on other than her own word, and like I feel like she's not really going to be a reliable person because clearly she lives. I don't know. I was gonna say clearly she lives in another reality where I don't know, because she doesn't seem to be remorseful for what she's done based on these audio recordings. She's very nonchalantly saying how she did it, what she did, and it's like eerie to hear how she's describing it.
Yeah, I agree with AJ. He's not like, she just doesn't seem like she cares for what she did. Like, I feel like it came natural to her, and that she doesn't seem too upset about it, which is crazy to me because like you're killing your children. So it's like, how could you just sit there and just tell the story of how you did it with no remorse in your voice? It's just beyond crazy to me.
It almost sounds like she's like telling the story of like something that happened that wasn't like not something that she did herself. It's almost like she's telling like a fictional story, just the way she's telling it. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't think someone who actually did that to their own child would be that calm and nonchalant about it as the way she sounds in the video.
Yeah, it is crazy how she really doesn't seem like she's remorseful. And even how when the investigator was saying you hit her and then she went to her room and then she comes back and says, yeah, but I didn't hit her just once. I hit her a bunch of times. It's like she's really trying to let the officer know that like she beat the crap out of her kid. It's like, I didn't just hit her over the head once, you know, and she had bumps all over the place. So just be sure to know that I really beat the shit out of her.
Yeah, she's not like shying away from the details.
Yeah, she's fully like admitting, fully committed, and wants the officer to know the details about, you know, how much she actually hurt her kids. So it is very kind of strange that she's so forthcoming, and she does come out later and say that she doesn't have any remorse for killing her kids. She calls them demons, and so basically saying that, you know, they were supposed to die. I don't play this part in the clips that I played, but throughout the interrogation, Mitchelle does admit that she actually did call the police before Stephen died to ask them like a hypothetical, what would happen if one brother was raping another brother. She asks if they both would get taken away to juvenile detention or what would happen to them. But she says that it's not happening to her kids, it's happening to a friend of hers. And so she just kind of wants to know what would happen in that situation. So she didn't actually tell them any personal information about her situation directly. But the police never follow up. They never went to her house to check on the kids. A phone call like that would seem pretty suspicious, but nothing from the police. According to George Hunter, reporting for the Detroit News, Child Protective Services had been called twice to the house in the past. And even though they did find evidence of abuse on the children, they were allowed to remain in Mitchelle's custody. And in at least one of those cases, Mitchelle was required to go to counseling so that she could keep her children. So there's definitely something wrong with that situation. They found evidence of abuse, but they keep the kids in the house. So I just don't understand, you know, what's going on. Mitchelle admits that Stephen had been killed and was in the freezer for about 2 years or more. He was killed on August 30th, 2012, and Stoni was killed almost a year later on May 25th, 2013. So it's sad that this happened, obviously, but no one knew the children were missing. Since they weren't going to school regularly and they were very isolated from everyone else in their family, Stephen was dead for over 2 years and nobody knew he was gone. When people, like their neighbors, friends, and even Stoni's father asked where they were, Mitchelle told them that she had sent Stephen and Stoni to live with their aunt because they were doing mean things to Alex, or she would just say that they were upstairs in their rooms. You know, she would give these different answers depending on who was asking. And so these seemed to satisfy everyone that was asking. They didn't need to see the children. And so, I mean, for over 2 years, Stephen had been dead in this freezer and nobody was concerned. Like we talked about, throughout her interrogation, she seems very composed. She's soft-spoken for the most part. She's very cooperative. She does break a couple times in that interrogation if you listen to the whole thing. When the detective leaves the room and asks her to look over the answers that she's provided, she does break down and cry. It seems like maybe reality is setting in about what she's actually done and that maybe she won't see her kids ever again. She asks the detectives if she can tell them that she loves them. And the detective also questions her about why she took Alex's word over the other two. Because Alex said they did this, the other two originally said that they didn't do it. But Mitchelle can't seem to accept that Stephen and Stoni may have confessed only because she was assaulting them and this was maybe their way out. And so she doesn't seem to think that being on Alex's side over the other two is an issue. She says that Alex had lied in the past, but it was always little lies. And so for whatever reason, she's just taking Alex's word over everybody else's. So Alex and his surviving older sister were, of course, examined and questioned, and they did admit that they suffered emotional and physical abuse at home, but they never mentioned sexual abuse. They had scars and cuts all over their bodies. Alex had 25 scars and injuries on his back alone. They detailed some of their abuse as being hit with a piece of wood, being whipped with an extension cord, being burned with a hot curling iron, and with a clothing iron. Mitchelle does admit to, quote, whooping her children. Mitchelle does say that she herself was sexually abused as a child, and when she told her mother about it, her mother just said, well, it's over and done with. What do you want me to do about it? So Mitchelle does state various times that she killed her two kids because she was protecting Alex and she wanted him to know that he mattered and that she believed what he was saying. So it's almost like she wanted to protect Alex in the way that her mother did not protect her. But of course, protecting Alex, one of her kids, she was completely disregarding her other two children's safety. So it almost seems like she favored Alex, in this situation at least, even though she does admit to, whooping him, whooping all of her children when she felt that they needed it. And so it does come up that maybe she kind of wanted that apology out of Stoni, because it will almost feel like her getting an apology for what happened to her in the past. So it's kind of very delusional, this whole situation. This thing happened to her, and now she's protecting her younger kid because it happened to him as well, even though it may not have. So it's kind of twisted in her mind what's going on here. In court, though, I think her true nature really comes out, and her anger and rage issues are evident. She has multiple outbursts where she yells at the judge in court and others when they're talking about some of her actions. She yells at her children's fathers in court, saying that they were never there. She had to deal with everything on her own, and she actually has to be escorted out of the courtroom. And ultimately, Mitchelle pled guilty, so she didn't actually have a trial. She was sentenced to life in prison without parole in July of 2015. And yeah, like I said, she does still say that her two kids were demons and she has no remorse for killing them. So this case, it was pretty open and shut. She murdered her kids, she admitted it, went to jail. There's just a lot of disturbing details in the middle there. So what are your guys' final thoughts on this?
I remember I actually knew a little bit about this case before you told it, but it's just like one of those things you can't believe that it's something like that actually happened. And just like the whole situation, like with them in the freezer and then the details of what she did to them, it's like so wild. And the fact that, like you said, people like didn't know that they were dead, and when they would ask, she would say, oh, they're upstairs in their room, or I went them, like, just the fact that they could be gone for that long and no one actually does anything more than just kind of asks a couple of questions, like, to me is very weird. But yeah, it's just wild to think that somebody could actually do that to their own kids and then keep them in the freezer for that long too. Like, that added detail is just so crazy to me.
Yeah, and keep them in the freezer in the living room where her other two kids are living, and actually showing the kids the bodies and them knowing that they're in there. Like, it's just disturbing. I can't imagine being those kids. And the fact that they didn't tell anybody just shows how isolated they were, how they didn't trust anybody else outside the family. So, I mean, it's super sad and just, yeah, like, crazy.
Yeah, and like also too the fact that like the police didn't really follow up after that call she made about like a hypothetical situation. Like, to me, that's one of the most egregious things, is that they didn't really look further into that. You think you get a call like that, you would want to do a follow up right away.
Yeah, definitely. Like, because even if she said it was happening to her friends' kids, like, go talk to her anyway. See which family they're talking about, right? I don't know. It just seems like she admitting that this is happening. So why would you go check it out? Like, the kids are obviously in danger.
Yeah, you can't just let that slide, I feel. Or you shouldn't let that slide. It's just wild. And also, I don't think you said this, but was she ever diagnosed with a mental illness, a specific one? Like, do we know? Because I feel like there has to be something like going on.
I don't know. I mean, they never actually mentioned that in any of the things that I watched or read about this. She does admit that, she probably was messed up from the trauma that she had in her childhood. But she even says herself, like, she made her own decisions. It wasn't like she couldn't control herself. She completely decided to do what she did and did it. So it's like she's fully aware of her own situation, what she did, how she did it. It was her choice. And she's completely just accepting everything. So, yeah, I really don't know if there really is anything mentally that they've diagnosed her with.
What I can't get over is that she just doesn't care that she killed her 2 kids. And what she did to the other kids. She just doesn't seem to care. We'll never know if they actually did sexually assaulted the other children, but it's like their word against hers because nobody knew that they were dead. Nobody knew anything about the family, so it blows my mind that she did what she did and she just doesn't care.
Yeah, and I guess there was no evidence of sexual assault for Stephen, even though this was years after those 2 had been killed. So I don't know how, physical evidence wasn't evident. I don't know how long that would last. But also, if they go to, a trained counselor or trauma therapy, I think there's signs that you can tell just by talking and how kids act that this stuff has happened to them. And there was no evidence that it ever did happen. So I don't know if she just made all that up in her mind, or what triggered all of this if they actually never were sexually abusing Alex. So it is kind of a mystery to actually what triggered the whole thing into motion. So very disturbing. And I just think it's crazy that if it didn't happen, why did she target those 2 kids? She loved Alex so much that she decided to kill the other kids to protect him. It just seems very kind of hypocritical, that she loved this one child, the youngest, but doesn't really care about the other 2 at all.
But also it's crazy too, like you said that her her name on Facebook or something said something about her children, like how much she loved them. So it's like such a difference from that to doing what she did.
Yeah. To me, it almost seems like the trauma from her being abused as a child and nobody caring just kind of erupted, and she just kind of exploded and was convincing herself that she had to protect her kid from what she went through as a kid. So I think there's kind of this, disoriented disillusionment happening, even though she fully accepts everything she did. So I don't know. It's a very interesting and strange one. Super sad, tragic, disturbing, all the above.
Yeah, it's wild. Look, I remember when I first read the details of the case a while back. I was looking into it and stuff. Unbelievable is what I could say. You just get kind of something you'd see in a movie or something you couldn't think could actually happen. The specific details of it, like I said, the freezer and all of that stuff. It's just so wild, and ultimately super sad for the kids, obviously. And
Was this case in the news?
Yeah, it was back when it first happened.
I feel like it was, because I feel like I saw it when it happened.
I don't remember ever seeing it in the media. I just heard about it after the fact. But yeah, there's articles from the news from back when it happened. So
I feel like I remember seeing it live, not live, but seeing it when it happened. I don't know. It does sound familiar to me, but
yeah, you could have seen it. It was only 8 years ago, I guess, that it would have been on the news or something. But yeah, I guess it's even sad for the 2 surviving kids that they had to go through that, and they're obviously going to have some issues growing up, having witnessed their mother beat Stephen and seeing the dead bodies in the freezer and living with them in the house for 2 years. It's just not good for those kids. So that's the end of this bonus episode. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.